Traders, welcome on back. Just another fine day, isn't it? Just post-Fed meeting here this Wednesday afternoon. Great to see all of us here live this February 1st. So let's hop right to it. We have a lot of us just joining us here inside our live trading room here, like Chuck, and we had Allison before. We had Neil, we had Ricardo just a moment ago, Ravina and Ron as well. So not only those folks just joining me here, but we have class coming up on ahead later on today at 3:05 Eastern time. So I'm actually going to be teaching that class, tagging in for Fausto in the Phase 3 class. So, essentially, we'll just be trading together going into the close, you and I. So I look forward to it. It's been a really good day altogether. And normally, you don't tend to see great market action prior to a Fed meeting. But even without the market action, we ended up doing really well across the board. A bunch of different cheapies that popped for us nicely, but then we had some mainstays like, Carvana, AMD off their earnings. Peloton popped early today, so we've been on top of that pretty nicely. So really from head to toe, it's been a great day. And now after the Fed meeting ended up concluding, obviously a whole bunch of different headlines came out at first. So let me just get the basic one that I pasted there in the chat board. So essentially here, it's just to say, wait for it. There we go. Fed raises key overnight interest rates by 25 basis points. So at first we had a nice pop, right? Nice little pop to begin things. But then since it's been kind of slumping back down, so this is where we could begin to see some sell-off here heading into the afternoon. Now the SPY beginning to shake down a little bit lower. You could actually see that on my 5-minute chart, just on the bottom of the 5-minute chart here. So we'll see where the SPY takes us going into the close. I just got stopped out right now with that in mind. I ended up losing a little unrealized profit, but I was up a decent chunk on the AMD trade. Just got stopped out right now, right off of 81.92. I'll come back to that one as well in a moment. But, hey, either way, which way the market will break going into the close, we'll look to follow up on Peloton at least and put this on our main list. So we'll start off with that. 16 was a huge level to work with going into the late morning, early afternoon. Ended up showing a huge 270,000 share iceberg on the ask. With that, let me just jump right to AMD. So AMD as well. AMD coming off of good earnings earlier today, this morning. They were up over like 9% just before. Things were looking good for this trade, just coming off of 81.50, and that's where I'd entered from originally. So, things were skyrocketing right off the Fed meeting, and things were running up towards 83 there on the AMD trade. But as of now, beginning to pull back down, kind of like the Peloton stock here. At least prior to the Fed, it was still really strong. So if we could at least get a little support to hold, then perhaps we can have one more pop or run on the Peloton and perhaps on the AMD trade. But either way, you don't want to catch a falling knife, right? I mean, if the SPY is tanking, if it's breaking below support locally, then local support should turn into, well, resistance. So that would be the first thought, at least in terms of seeing any sort of bounce on the S&P or the SPY coming up this afternoon now at this point. So yeah, AMD will put on our list to begin. The Peloton trade will put back on our list to begin. Then really from this point, we'll go from top to bottom, see what we could add at least on our watch list going into the close. A little disappointing there. I was expecting a hell of a lot more there on the AMD, honestly. I was kind of hoping to go into class with that AMD trade. Smaller share count given the price, but that kind of stinks with the market pulling back right now. So, hey, VS right now going into the close. It only looks like it's going to continue to fill the gap on the way down there. So I had marked up this chart leading into the open, but as you could see now, much like with like 99% of these pharma trades or pre-market small cap trades that we have on our watch list, they end up dying off, end up completely pulling back. If it's not same day, it's day after. All right, BGXX pulling back a bit now. This had a nice run. I ended up missing out on this trade at least. More of a cheapie, broke over $1, and really that's when it made its better move. 105 perhaps there, blasted above the highs and completely ran up. So phenomenal move here even. The BGXX, I'd missed out on this trade personally. G-Sun, I know Chuck and a couple more of us inside our live trading room had caught this one. So this was one more from the late morning, if not like 11 o'clock, then 11:30, ended up making a big pop. And then, just more of a grinder, ended up carrying off the lows and building up towards, break above resistance off of 250, 275. But when the volume peaks and then completely dies off from that point, oftentimes that's like getting the volume sucked out of the market on the trade. So it ended up failing to hit 3 or trying to make the test of 3, false break of that price, ended up topping off at like 288, then pulled back. So Yeah, this G-Sun trade, at least for right now, not looking too good. I'll probably say that on a bunch of these trades here coming up. The MSGM, of course, we know. God bless anyone that wanted to roll the dice, and if do it on 1-2 shares, it's low risk, obviously. But if anyone really did this on a larger share count overnight, that is so high risk. So, congrats to anyone that did that. But, otherwise, hey, you could day trade it if it provides another opportunity for a bounce. Looks like it tanked. And at that point, I took my eyes off it. So, the MGAM was the better trade, if anything. It was the more liquid stock. It was moving in sympathy, actually, with the MSGM. We also had the EBET trade, which was actually moving in sympathy with MGAM. So it was kind of interesting. You had all three of those kind of moving somewhat in tandem. Hey, those two are the two better ones. For right now, I'm not going to put either on our main list. I marked out those two charts, obviously, so I had a personal interest in them, at least going into the open. IVDA is not looking too bad, at least. Nice trend back up, moving up towards, last peak off of 12 o'clock Eastern time, roughly off that 140 price. For a dollar stock, though, you'd want it to have a more consistently tight spread. So that's the issue on this trade. I feel like it's going to thin out, or the volume is going to die back down suddenly. I mean, I'll write it down. I'll put it on our side list. I'll come back to it just at the tail end. Remind myself of it. KBNT, not a whole lot happening there. RCRT. And we keep going. All right, whole bunch of crap here, right? I mean, not surprising, just because, a lot of these stocks with the market shaking down now, I'm sure a lot of these stocks aren't really going to be as concise trending upward, but either way, these pharma stocks, small caps, don't really make as good of a move. There goes the Carvana trade. So I didn't show Carvana beforehand, right? All right, so Peloton, AMD, Carvana. All right, so those were the three that we really had our eyes on just before the Fed meeting concluded. So with that, this also will put on our main list. I mean, how can we not, especially with this slingshot back up higher now? I mean, this is about to break new highs here. This is definitely our strongest stock going into the afternoon. AMD is actually making another big break off the trend line there, so I may look to jump back in on that trade, try to if I can simultaneously here. But nevertheless, though, Carvana making a strong move back up. Peloton trying to go back up. And the AMD trade, I'm going to see if I can get back in on. If I can't get back in on AMD here, then I'll tell you what. I'm going to try and get back in on AMD right during class. The phase 3 stock course, folks, keep that in mind. Later on today, coming up at 3:05 Eastern time, we'll conclude that class today at 3:05. I'll be subbing in for Fausto, so hey, we could always just try and jump in from another level if need be, even if it's from a higher price. But wow, market's making a big pop altogether. We knew that we'd have some competition here going into this meeting. Jerome Powell, right, Fed chair, on the mic right now himself. So Sam's saying the SPY is holding at 405. So Powell did not destroy the market. Yeah, ended up just making a beautiful pop right now. So I'm sure he said some at least minor remarks about inflation, that hey, there could be some easing of that over time, or further easing of it over time. All right, let's be quick now. I gotta try and get back in on that AMD trade. Damn, made some money on it, mind you, 81.50 entry, but geez, that thing was pretty wicked there just before Powell stepped on. All right, what else we got here? Cold. Surprising to see cold actually up as much right now with the market up here today. So, hey, great swing trade. We've been saying that, but for right now, order book very thin. That'll do it on the gainer side, really. I mean, I don't really see much else that looks like a familiar name. If there's anything else that looks good, folks, that's on the way up, that's moving with the market popping higher here, type it in the chat board. Let me know right now. The Peloton trade definitely looks strong on the way up towards the 16 level. So we'll see if that can make that quick move. Quick little trade there, perhaps off that 1584 level, previous high. We'll keep going, though. Okay, so I got filled on a very small share on AMD, but I was fortunate, I guess, to even say that. Very small, though. Snapchat snapping back up a small amount with the market pushing up. I don't even know what the news was on this trade. My guess was bad earnings. And teach their own, I hate Snapchat. The product, the company, everything, all about them. So, just because you're getting a little move up right now, there's just certainly better stocks now to try and long in this market. That's why I'm not really going to be too particular about the loser side right now. Just kind of gloss over it here, see if there's anything else that looks good. Uh, Not much. All right, folks. Hey, that's fine by me. Not much even down that big anyway. Like that 50, 60% or more that we could look for a dead cat bounce on. Peloton's trying to make that squeeze off of previous high right there off of 1584. Look for that to be support here at least. And then otherwise, the AMC trade is cruising back on up. So I'll tell you, we got 3 stocks on our list. Let's take some recommendations from some students and members inside our live trading room. I'll look at the IVDA to wrap up. From Brian, we got LAC. LAC's down today, but it's trending back up, and it was up big yesterday. So I see the reasoning on that, right? There could be a reason to try and follow it. If you're already in, Bri, then I'm sure that you're doing pretty well on it. But I'd want something more close to the highs of the day. Like that AI that Mike said beforehand, right? AI high of the day is 21.24 technically, and it's up over 5%. There's some pre-market activity though that is around 21.50, 22. But great trade. I like this one. I'll put this on our main list. Looks pretty strong still. Billy up 2%, trying to pop right now. Hey, if you're doing well on it already, I'm rooting you on. There's going to be lots of trades that could be in contention that look kind of similar. I mean, hey, look at American Airlines. This is breaking HOD really well right now. I'm more inclined to follow the airlines out the gate here. Damn. Look at the cruise lines, perhaps, like a RCL or NCLH. I mean, this is up over 4%. Take a look at Carnival. So all of those look pretty decent, right? I don't want to build out too big of a list. So that's where I could even kind of tag these on the side list and say, if you do well on them, or if there's any one in particular that you're keen to follow, I'm sure that you'll be more inclined to put it on your personal list. Stock like Square, stock like Roblox, stock like Rivi, and not really Rivian as much. It's kind of now flat on the day comparing to yesterday's close. Possible. But, there's just a lot right now that with the market making a new high of the day that will look like this. So, we got to focus on the utter best, right? That's why for right now, Peloton, AMD, Carvana, and that AI trade I do like. So those 4, and then we'll jump back to the IVDA, which is not doing a whole lot here for us right now. So we'll pass on it. We'll jump to Benzinga Pro, wrapping up with the Benzinga Pro scanner page there. Sheesh, you got a bunch of different trades right now. I don't know what's going on. All right, so the MSGM, I guess, is starting to. Nah, it's not really. Just popped up on my Benzinga screener there, but BGRY, new high of the day, up over 13%. Not bad. BGXX trying to creep back up, but again, I wanted it to be more close to the highs right now. Foxo, I think now we're scraping the bottom of the barrel here. DM doesn't look too bad right here. It's up over 10%. It's running off a decent volume right now. Actually, out of everything, I just kind of skimmed through this DM trade. Actually, I'll slip on our list here on the back end. All right, folks. So I'll tell you what, we got a great list already. Peloton, on the way up to 16 and over 16. Beautiful timing on that move up and over that 1584 previous high of the day. On my other screen here, I had lines set up, just Fibonacci lines, actually just kind of setting up based off this high. So once I saw it kind of creep back over that, it had a couple of false breaks above it previously here, and just re-breaking it led to a nice squeeze. So even for myself right now, I jumped in. This might just be a good time to nab some money, take some money and run, add on to the day. I'm going to just even take out half here. There we go. All right, so folks, right now for all of us on YouTube Live, Facebook, and Twitter, I appreciate you folks sticking with me here each and every day, each and every afternoon, joining us here. But if you're interested in joining our live trading room throughout the week, whether it be this week or next, make sure that you go right down to the link on the green banner below the stream to get yourself set up, to get yourself started. If you have any questions prior to joining us, though, feel more than free to shoot me a quick email. Josh at c2trading.com. I always like to post my email here at the end of these streams. So let me know if there's any questions or trades that you'd like to go over. But for Grant and Chuck and Mark and Michael and Ron and all of us here live that have access to the Phase 3 course, I look forward to seeing you folks in class. Remember, I'll be doing the Phase 3 class today, tagging in for Fausto. So I look forward to this afternoon, folks. A lot to trade, a lot to focus on. So let's see if we can get a couple of runners here. Take care.